Claire Monroe was merely another exhausted and overburdened young medical intern when she caught a sound no one else seemed to hear. A whisper-soft cry from a baby left behind in the hospital's long-forgotten wing. That faint sound drew her into a world of devastating choices, soul-deep sacrifice, and a love that would surpass every expectation. Stay tuned until the end of today's story to learn how a single quiet act of compassion from one woman could echo across decades, altering not only one child's fate, but many. And please, don't forget to let us know where in the world you're listening from. Claire's first week at the city hospital was nothing like what she had envisioned. Fresh out of medical school, she had dreamed of sunlit hallways, calm professionals, and young patients healing under tender care. Instead, she was thrust straight into the chaos of the pediatric infectious disease ward, where fatigue and short staffing ruled. But one evening, everything shifted. After a grueling 13-hour shift, Claire shuffled down the hall toward the isolation wing, an area staff generally avoided. The air was thick with an unpleasant odor. She glanced at the feeding chart, and her heart clenched. It had been more than 10 hours since the last recorded feeding. She rushed toward the crib. There she found him, a tiny infant no older than 6 months. Still and fragile, his lips were dry and cracked, and dried tears streaked his little cheeks. He didn't even cry anymore, just let out the faintest whimper. Something inside Claire broke. She gathered him gently in her arms and whispered, "I hear you. I'm here." His name was Noah. He had been diagnosed with cerebral palsy and struggled with respiratory issues. His birth mother had abandoned him immediately after delivery, and at that moment, Claire made herself a silent vow. This child would never again feel like he didn't matter. Though still just an intern, Claire took it upon herself to care for Noah. She learned to massage his tense muscles, dove into early intervention research, and crafted a personal care schedule just for him. The senior nurse, Nora Simmons, offered a weary warning, the kind of wisdom born from decades in overwhelmed pediatric wards. "Don't get too close, Claire. You'll burn out." Her words weren't cruel, but seasoned with the tired realism of someone who had watched many idealistic interns collapse under the emotional weight. Claire met Nora's eyes, but didn't respond. Something inside her had shifted. She couldn't quite name the bond she felt with Noah, but she knew she couldn't walk away. There was something far deeper than duty tying her to that crib. Her fiancé, Ethan Walsh, quickly picked up on the change. "You're doing overtime? For a baby that isn't even yours?" he scoffed. Claire tried to explain. Noah had no one else. This wasn't pity, it was love. But Ethan grew increasingly impatient. Every time she mentioned the baby, his expression hardened. "You're not his mom," he barked one evening. "This isn't your problem. You can't rescue every lost cause." She tried showing him photos. Noah smiling, responding to her voice. Even the therapists had noticed improvements. But Ethan didn't see any of it. His eyes were on their wedding, on the perfect life they were supposed to be chasing. Sunday brunches, career growth, and a home with a white picket fence. Eventually, the tension boiled over. "Claire, it's him or me. You can't have both." The silence that followed was long and heavy. She almost hoped he'd take it back, soften his stance, finally see what she saw, but he didn't. Claire chose Noah. Her parents weren't much more supportive. "What future are you even building, Claire?" her mother sobbed. "You're sacrificing your life for a disabled child." But Claire saw what no one else did. Noah wasn't a burden or a pity case. He was a child who just needed to be loved. She plunged into the adoption process, meeting rejection after rejection. The paperwork was endless, forms needing other forms, signatures that had to be notarized, and still, the authorities questioned her. "You're too young, single, lacking resources." Only one person stood by her, Dr. Samuel Whitaker, the hospital's administrator. He used his connections, drafted a glowing letter of recommendation, and offered 3 simple words: fight for him. After an exhausting month, Claire officially adopted Noah. She transformed her modest apartment into a warm haven filled with lullabies, colorful toys, and love. Then came Dr. Daniel Reyes, a pediatric neurologist with a gentle smile and kind hands. He treated Noah like any other child and offered Claire the emotional support she hadn't realized she was missing. He began stopping by more often, bringing children's books, sensory tools, and laughter. Eventually, something more than friendship began to bloom. Daniel's parents weren't thrilled. "You're dragging our son into your pet project," Elena Reyes coldly told Claire. But Daniel stood firm beside her, and in that, Claire found someone who truly understood her. They married in a quiet ceremony. Nora brought an enormous cake, and Dr. Whitaker officiated. But the true star was Noah, walking with the help of a frame, who proudly brought his mother the bouquet, his hands shaking but his smile unshakable. Soon after Daniel adopted Noah too, it merely made official what was already real. He had long been Noah's father in every sense that mattered. The papers were symbolic but sacred, a formal seal on the bond they had nurtured together. Daniel had been there for every late-night fever, every therapy session, every moment of doubt. They had become a family, through and through. The years moved on. Noah flourished. Despite what the doctors once said, he learned to talk, to walk, and to thrive. At 5, he was walking without assistance. At 10, he read at his grade level. By 15, he stood in front of rooms full of parents and professionals, sharing his story, his trials, his progress, and the tiny triumphs that rebuilt his confidence, one step at a time. Driven by everything she had experienced, Claire returned to school. She became a certified rehabilitation specialist and mentored young therapists. Her work with Noah became a benchmark, a guide for others. With Daniel, she founded a center, Little Steps, dedicated to neurorehabilitation in young children. It became more than a clinic, it became a safe place. Dozens, then hundreds of families came through, and each time she saw a child speak their first word or stand for the first time, she thought of the baby whose whisper had once changed her life. Now in college, Noah was studying psychology. He introduced Claire and Daniel to his girlfriend, Lily Thompson, a brilliant child therapist. One night, while having dinner at home, Lily gently took Noah's hand and looked at Claire with misty eyes. "We're expecting," she said. Then she added, voice trembling, "and we're launching a nonprofit. We're calling it Silent Love." She paused. "It's inspired by your story, Claire, the whisper that changed it all. We want to support early care and provide family education for children like Noah, because of what you gave, because of your love when the world had none to give." Claire sat silent, her eyes flooding with tears, filled with pride and gratitude. Her heart felt like it could burst. She realized that her story didn't end. It had simply been passed on, carried forward by the life she once cradled in a quiet hospital room. At Little Steps, a hesitant couple once arrived, unsure if they were capable of adopting a child with cerebral palsy. Claire, now the center's director, welcomed them with a warm smile. "Let me share a story with you," she said. That evening, Claire sat on her back porch and read a letter from Nora Simmons, the retired nurse from the hospital. It read, "I thought you were making a mistake, but I was wrong. You didn't just save one boy. You changed everything, one heart at a time." Looking up at the stars, Claire thought back to that forgotten wing, to the night a baby's cry went unheard, except by her. One whisper of pain had become a lifetime of love, because sometimes it's the softest cries that leave behind the loudest echoes. If you were in Claire's shoes, would you have listened to that whisper, or walked away like the others? Share your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for listening to Storyline Narratives.